I'm taking Adderall to play sports because I think I need it because I play better when I take it, or at least I think I do.
You think you play better, right? You
Yes.
think you play better. You think you're smarter. You think like all of these things, which is not even true. Right?
No, it's not. You have all these ideas, and again, alcohol and drugs is the biggest lie in the universe, and it really messed me up for a while, that lie, because I was sick, and I had this thing in my brain tell me I needed it, and it wasn't hurting me.
I don't know a lot about your story, but I have you on here because Pete speaks highly of you and your story, and I'm just really looking forward to getting to learn more about you.
So Peter came on my podcast. He, as you know, is just a force of nature. And then I think another mutual connection is Megan Racer. She came on my podcast too. She's another one that's just really an inspiration and carries the message.
Absolutely. Megan is the director of business development at my treatment center, Camelback Recovery.
That's that's what rang a bell. Yeah.
She's awesome. She has a great story. I think that the thing that all of us have in common is that we work hard at carrying the message, and the reason we carry the message is because we all want to stay clean and sober. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, that's why we help other people, because I want to be fulfilled, I want to be happy, and I want to make a contribution to this world. And I know that making a contribution to this world is what brings fulfillment and happiness.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. My brother passed away in May, and he was sober. He died of cancer. It kind of came quickly. It was never life-threatening, and then it ended up killing him. And all he would want is for me to stay sober and carry the message. That's all he would want. Like, it's kind of simple. You think when somebody who you love, and how can I honor them when they die? It's just like getting sober, really. It's simple, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Just stay sober and carry the message. And that's what I'm doing here with you. And because honestly, like you said, that makes me fulfilled. And I think that's what he would want. He loved me that much. He would want me to be fulfilled, and he would want me to take advantage and tap into the unique ability that I have, that you have, to talk to other drunks and drug addicts about what it's like to come out of the wilderness and into a great life, which, I love how you phrase this. It's for newcomers. And because when I was coming around, and that's why you mentioned numerous attempts in and out. I was in and out because I didn't think it would be fun. I didn't know what being sober, what the magic it really held. I was too preoccupied on, I'm not going to be able to toast at my son's wedding in 30 years,
Right.
Yeah. I don't have a son, and I've never been married, dude.
I'm not going to be able to drink a glass of wine with a good steak.
Yeah. And and they talk about it when you get sober, about that euphoric recall. And I really do have that still once in a while, where it's like, gosh, I remember that one time I went to dinner and had 2 glasses of wine and went home and didn't have any more. It was one out of 100,000. It feels like.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let's dig into your story. Tell me about your upbringing. Where were you born? Siblings? Yeah. What was your family life like?
Yeah, I grew up outside of Philadelphia in an area, Villanova, where the college is, the university, and it was a great life, man. I grew up in the suburbs, nice area. A lot of fear in the household that I wasn't aware of. Now that I look back, my dad was. I struggle saying this because I love my dad so much, and he was one of the main reasons I was able to get sober. But he was an alcoholic, and he was functional, whatever you want to call functional, right? I mean, what's a functional alcoholic? You don't really have any real relationships, and you're driven by all kinds of fear and stuff. But that's what he was, but he provided a good life for us. But his whole family, whole side.
Now, okay, what would you say? What's the definition of a good life, anyways?
Well, okay, we went on the street.
Okay. Yeah. A good life. Does a good life mean you're happy and fulfilled? Or, because a good life could be you're provided for, you have a place to live, you have food, and you get to go to school. But really, is that really a good life? I
No,
mean, I guess
you sound like my brother who I brought up. You know, he was a therapist and he was always like, he always thought I was from another planet, you know, because I was like, hey, we had a good upbringing. He's like, really?
did we? Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I honor my dad. My mom, you know, she's kind of woke up to his alcoholism, you know, and then she was kind of like trying to figure it out. And she was so loving and doted on us. And then my dad was just a hard guy to please. He was tough, rough around the edges, went to work every day. I think that his ultimate goal was to meet some level financially where he could never have stress, you know, I think, or take care of us. I think my parents were over their skis financially at a very early age. And I think that haunted my dad up until maybe the last 15 years of his life when he was able to retire with a little bit of money. But the alcoholism was always there. There was always like, you know, and some of it was romantic, right? People coming over, the martini glasses. I can remember having the chilled olives from somebody's martini, and I really did like the way it tasted. And then I'll tell you my first interaction, you know, with alcohol and drugs was I was a kid and I had all kinds of behavioral problems. So they put me on Adderall as a little kid, and I can remember really feeling like, wow, this is doing something for me. Like legitimately change a mood altering substance, one, and then two, it made me feel like I was, I guess, up to snuff with everybody else. And, you know, from that moment, it was almost like the chemical reaction certainly happened, but then there was maybe like a placebo effect where it was like, I'm not as good as everybody else. I got to take something. Like they sent me when I was a kid, I was dyslexic. And so I went to a Catholic grade school. And so I would go to the reading van and the normal kids would be in class with everybody else. And at the time, I was never able to really process that. But looking back now, knowing a little bit about the evolution of people and my evolution, my development, I'm like, whoa, that was probably tough on that kid,
Right.
You know? Yeah. So that was but taking the Adderall, and I'm not here to tell anybody about any kind of medication or whatever. If your doctor prescribes you, or that's a whole nother podcast. My experience was I took that stuff, and I felt different, you know, and I felt like I was going to need something to be on par with everybody else. And then as I developed, you know, I remember my brother Kevin, my oldest brother, my parents would go to like 7-Eleven and he would have a keg party, which was awesome.
How many siblings did you have?
Two older brothers, Michael and Kevin, both
Okay.
sober. Kevin, who I mentioned, died sober, and then Mike is still sober. I think he'll have 17 years in like a couple weeks.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is awesome because it's the last thing that I think any of us thought we'd be involved in, you know? And we certainly fought it tooth and nail for so long. So I can remember drinking, getting drunk when my brother had a party and getting sick, like probably 5th grade. And then I really didn't, I don't know, I didn't really experience or experiment much with alcohol until I was in high school. You know, I always tell people, like, I remember going to dances in 8th grade and being so nervous. And then I can remember going to dances when I was in high school after I started to drink. And Tim, man, I couldn't wait to get there.
Right.
I mean, it was this incredible gift. I can never talk to girls. Socially, I was great with like my parents' friends and my brother's friends, but like, it was weird. Like I was not on par with like people my own age. I don't know, but everything changed when I started to drink. And there was this, you know, the joy that I got from sobriety was the same joy that I got from drinking initially. I mean, I really was like, okay. And there was so much, I think it's such a mind F. It's such a lie. Like there was so much hope and potential, what I thought, like wrapped up in this, you know, oh my gosh, if I have this, I can do anything quickly. It all changed really. I mean, I drank all throughout high school a lot. I mean, whenever I could get my hands on it, you know, I started to smoke weed.
Were you a blackout drinker? What kind of a drinker were you in high school?
Whatever. I mean, like sometimes I black out, sometimes I wouldn't. I guess I wouldn't. I guess I would say I wasn't necessarily a blackout drinker. I mean, a couple times I don't remember, right, blacking out. I was told I blacked out. And then, but most of the time I can kind of remember being awake because one, I ended up being a bigger dude because I started to play football in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started to play football, I put on weight or was always trying to. And then it was funny. It worked out. I mean, first of all, one thing I want to mention throughout high school, I had two older brothers who were sort of socially paved the way. I was, I grew up in a great area of the world, of the country. I mean, like I did, regardless of what that looked like on the inside. I certainly didn't grow up in an area where people wanted for a lot. And so there was entitlement I had. That's why I bring that up. Born on third base, thought I hit a triple. I heard somebody say that in a meeting once, and I was like, that, you go, and I was like, me too. Like, that's me. Yeah. So I ended up getting a scholarship to play at the University of Richmond. Now, my second semester, my senior year, I can really remember my mom was not an addict, but she kept all of her old prescriptions, and I discovered them my second semester senior year. And I was taking this stuff. I mean, it was like a pharmacy in there, and I was taking it before school, after school. Now I'm taking Adderall to play sports because I think I need it because I play better when I take it. Or at least I think I do.
You think you play better, right? You think you play better. You think you're smarter. You think like all of these things, which is not even true.
Right? No, it's not. You have all these ideas. And again, alcohol and drugs is the biggest lie in my in the universe. And it really messed me up for a while, that lie, because I was sick, and I had this thing in my brain tell me I needed it and it wasn't hurting me. And it continued on with these prescription drugs now, marijuana and alcohol. This is a daily, steady diet for me at 17 years of age. And I ended up getting to play in this all-star game in Philadelphia in my senior year in high school before I went to Richmond to play football. And I was getting a physical, and this doctor was like, hey, there's something wrong with your heart. It's beating. You have an arrhythmia. You got to see a cardiologist. So I go to see a cardiologist, and the cardiologist was like, hey, man, you have something called cardiomyopathy. You're not going to be able to play. And he said, you could have gotten it one of two ways. Either one, you got it through abuse of alcohol and drugs. That's a possibility. But factoring into that also was you had a virus go through your body for so long, the virus goes away, and your body is so used to attacking the virus, it kind of goes after your organs or your body. It's called viral cardiomyopathy. And I was like, yeah, I definitely got it from just the virus. Right away, I was like, it was presented to me like you could have gotten this. Drinking could have played a part in this. And I was like, no way. There was no way anybody was going to get in between this drug, these substances, and me, And I got to college. They honored my scholarship, which was incrable. I went to school with guys that I'm still friends with now, like family. But guys who didn't talk to me for a while because I after college, we'll get to that. I just deteriorated because of alcohol and drug addiction.
When did you realize you were an alcoholic?
I knew I had a problem pretty early because I was like, this works better for me than anybody else. I can remember even being a senior or junior, senior in high school and waking up in the morning after a keg party and drinking from the keg again. And people were like, dude, we got to go home or what? I was like, why would you guys not want to continue to do this?
Right.
And so
we got to finish this.
Yeah. And again, it was this superpower. I thought it was this big secret that I was in on and everybody else kind of didn't quite get. And then I knew when I got to college, I think I knew that I was so because my mom did a pretty good job of drilling it into our head. Like, your father's an alcoholic, his whole family they're alcoholics. And she didn't say it with, hatred or disgust. It was just like, this is a fact. You need to look out for this. This is real.
To get a free copy of the 12-step guide that I created for you, click on the link in the description below. So
I knew I was able, even with my sick alcoholic and addicted brain, I was able to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together right around, so at some point in college, because also I had this heart problem and people were like, don't drink. And I was like, yeah, right. And so there was definitely an awareness there that I had whatever my mom was talking about. And then I would see, and this is why I think what you do is important and what I try to do is important because, recovering out loud, I did see stories. I remember reading a Sports Illustrated article about Chris Mullin, the basketball player, getting sober. And I thought that was super interesting and super cool. You know, the story in itself, I guess I was big into comebacks and stuff, but I was like, wow, that's amazing. And it really planted a seed. You know how you talk about people that come to meetings and they won't get sober, but maybe the seed was planted. Like there was definitely a couple seeds planted early on. Like, okay, you can get sober and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, and just kind of on that note, we've had lots of people at our treatment center that we've worked with, lots of celebrities, very high profile individuals. And I remember one specific, most of them were pretty open. And I mean, like, I think it's important for people to be open. I'm very open and I'm an example. And when people see my life and when they see your life, it's like, okay, it is possible. And we had this one very high profile client, and he just wanted to be very hush hush. He didn't want to share it with anybody, which, hey, that's his deal, and we respect that, of course. But I just don't think that's I don't know. It's speaking out loud about your message and your story, I think is just very helpful to people.
Well, and also too, for me, I once, you know, and we're getting there, but once I really hit the skids, I mean, everybody knew I had a problem. So again, all I have is my story, but it was one of those things where, yeah, I'm different. I'm sober. Everybody knew. And I wanted to just talk about it because, and I didn't have this magic plan then, but there's an accountability to that. Like when other people know, it's more difficult to pick up a drink around a circle of people who love you that know you have an issue, as opposed to you're not telling, nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's like the reason I speak out. Okay, we put free content out into the world. We're helping people. The reason I sponsor people, yes, I want them to stay clean and sober, but really, at the end of the day, it's me. I want to stay sober.
Yeah,
that's it. Like the reason why I talk about my story, the reason I do the things I do is because I want to stay sober, and I've created so many layers of accountability in my life, and, yes. and I know you have too. So it's just like, I got a lot to lose if I decide that I want to go, live my old life again. I mean, my whole life that I've created kind of goes away.
Dude, I can totally relate. Sometimes, because I have that thing in my head that tells me, oh, maybe you can drink or whatever. It's like, dude, when I think about that, I'm like, well, I don't even know where I would live or where I would go. Like everybody, like nobody, so it's kind of, you're right. Those layers of accountability, I love how you worded that, are important to my sobriety. They really, really are. So back I'm in high school or college. I'm reading about Chris Mullen getting sober, but I'm still off to the races. I finish up college, and I ended up kind of I fall ass backwards into a job, and I go ahead and I go up to New York. Now at the time, ecstasy was big. I graduated 99. I mean, and college, so it was everywhere, and I was taking it way like an addict would take it, and I really felt that's one of the things too. Or I was like, this is not good for my brain. I can remember thinking like, I'm not. This is affecting me like totally different stuff. Again, I had no idea really what was in it. I took it; it would feel good. But I can remember being like, whoa, this is scary. Because I would take like 4 or 5 and not be able to move. We would go to a club or something and I would just like collapse or wouldn't be able to talk. I mean, like it was bad, right? I mean, like it's what it looks like. It's ugly. And my friends were really worried about me. And then I got a job in New York, and I moved up to New York. And I always tell people this as a drug addict and an alcoholic. I had some skills, like God-given gifts. So if you were to hire me or I were to start to date you, or you gave me the keys to your car or your vacation house, like at the beginning, maybe for a little while, I'd be okay. But like sooner or later, the alcoholic was showing up, the addict was showing up, and, steal your shit and help you look for it, man. That's what I would do. That is the person that I turn into when I'm in the grips of alcohol and drug addiction. And I saw that start to happen. But the reason I brought that up is I was able to piece together stretches of, somewhat success or productivity and being able to contribute where people would keep me around long enough that I would become a real problem for them, So, I mean, I'm living in New York, working for this sports agent for this other sports company, living fast, living hard. And I discover cocaine. And that's when it really, it was a whole nother level. I mean, it was the moment I remember the first time I did it, I thought to myself, like, I want to do this again every day for the rest of my life. I compared it to when I was a kid and I got Tecmo Bowl. And the next day I remember I was fake sick from school so I could play Tecmo Bowl. I was obsessed. And I get the same feeling with that drug. Like, I'm going to do this every day. Like, I don't know why. The next day I skipped work and just did it all day because I finally had my own. And it was a whole new ball game, man. You know, it was early on in that addiction. It was sorted places, lower companions, like right away. The sun is coming up. People don't know where I am, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a pretty quick descent for me. As far as, okay, I mean, I probably started to use that drug in October of 2000. I mean, in 2002, I was back at home living with my parents, like with nothing. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And with nothing. And I was really in bad shape, like we get. And then my parents, you know, like normal people, they would go to sleep at night. Right. And so once they did that, I remember once I took my dad's car down to Philadelphia, I put it up on a median because I was driving to get what I was going to get down there. And the police were like, hey, like they came because the car is on a median and they take me down off it. And I'm like, hey, like, I got to go somewhere. Like, you know, we got to hurry this up. And they're like, dude, you're coming with us. And the reason I bring that up is because that was my first foray into 12 steps. You know, the next morning, you know, obviously I got in trouble with the law. The next morning I went to an AA meeting. And I did that for about 3 months. And I really.
Why did you go to an AA meeting the next day? Did you
back trouble?
On your...
That's what they tell you, right? I have people on my back. I mean, I was looking for
back trouble. I've never heard that.
I had
back trouble. Yeah, people on my back. Okay.
I was looking for some kind of relief. You know, I didn't know what I wanted then, but I was like, I got to change something. You know, there were a bunch of people over my house the next day after all this had happened. And my buddy who was sober and is sober, he lived in Phoenix for a little while, but he was sober for, I don't know, now he's probably sober for 20 some years, but he got sober when we were 18. And so he took me to my first meeting at like 26, I guess. And
so you went to your first meeting really just to kind of appease everybody else. It wasn't
you
truly thought that you needed to get sober.
I mean, I didn't even go there like in my own mind, you know, like that first meeting, I was like totally a blur, but it felt good. Like I had no other option. So I kept going and it actually started to work. Like these people I was around had great energy. I respected them a lot. And they told stories that, you know, I was like, whoa, these people are just like me. And I made the fatal mistake of I continued to hang around my old friends. And even though they knew I had an issue, people were like, hey, don't drink, don't do drugs. But one night, man, I was just like, people were passing around a joint. I was like, yeah, I got it. Let me hit that, you know? And so I started to smoke weed for the next like 9 months and without drinking. And then I got a job in Colorado. And the moment I got there, I started to drink again. And it was like same stuff. Like the first night, you know, it was like, whoa. And that's terrifying. People, even if you go back out and you drink, it doesn't mean the first night you're going to get arrested or whatever. But for me, I flirted with it right away. The disaster. I mean, like, it was like, whoa, what am I doing? I'm searching for hard drugs. The first night I'm drinking, I was like, this is not a tenable situation. But you lie to yourself, because the next night I went to Chili's with 3 of my friends and had 2 beers, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I got forgetting about the night before. But I mean, long story made shorter, I was out of control for the next 7 years. Just like I kept jobs. You know, I worked in the NBA, working in public relations. I worked for the Sixers. I worked for the Hornets. I gave my bosses absolute fits. You know, I had those moments like we talked about where I was a good employee and I was a decent person, but eventually that stuff always caught up to me. And I still was of the belief that it was helping me. I mean, it was big in my relationships with women. You know, I couldn't talk to women without it, really. And I think that was one of the unfortunate parts of when I first stopped drinking, is that I never worked steps. I never got really into a program where I could figure out it's no big deal to talk to people, dude. Like, like you can do that,
Right.
you know, but that was the lie, dude. That was the lie. So I ended up I was back in Charlotte working for the Hornets, and I was doing some radio, and my life was just in free fall. And then I ended up going back home to Philadelphia for the summer. Because basketball season, I was season had ended, and I couldn't stop drinking. And I was going to meetings, and now we're in the fall, and I can't stop. And I remember one night I was, and I had so much wreckage, I think you can figure out just from my story, but broken relationships, trouble with employers, trouble with the law, just a lot of people out there who were not big fans of me at the time. And a lot of people who were really disappointed because they knew me when I was younger. They saw the light shine bright when I was a kid and even a younger man. And then they just saw darkness now. And it was really sad for a lot of people. And I was going to meetings again, and I asked this guy to be my temporary sponsor. And one night he was like, "Hey, let's go to a meeting. I'll pick you up." And so he was picking me up. And at this point in time, I'm still not stopped. I'm taking pills or whatever I can do I think I'm fooling the world,
Right.
But I'm rock bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no money. If I can get to the corner bar with $10 and a couple Klonopin, like I think that I've got this great life. I'm out of my mind.
Right.
So he was like, "Hey, like, actually, we're not going to go to a meeting. We're going to go to dinner." And he told me his story, and he looked at me knowing everything about me. Right. It just was like, "Hey, I think, my story included going to treatment. You should probably go. You should probably go."
Right.
And I remember, dude, it was like there was a window that God opened up for me like that much. And I feel like it was the last one. And I just like if you're just listening to this, it's like a 6-inch, like whatever, a foot, open. I'm cracked open, and I just rolled out the other side. And I was like, okay. And I went home and I told my parents, I was like, "Hey, like, I need to go to treatment." They're like, "Woof, like, do you ever?"
Right. Everybody knew. You were the last one to know. Yeah.
There you go, dude. When you're an alcoholic or an addict, a lot of times, or in my experience, you're the last one to know. Just like how bad it is and how awful the situation is. So I went to rehab in Pennsylvania, not far from where I grew up, and my life started to change. I mean, I bought in. I needed the facilitation, the recovery, and honestly, plain and simple, I needed walls in between me and the outside world. I just did. I needed that little bit, that buffer where it was like, you can't leave, dude. I was one thing that really was, looking back, a huge part of my sobriety was that gift of desperation we talked about at the beginning. I had the gift of desperation, and I became coachable. I listened to what people told me to do. I saw that people had a life that I wanted, and so I followed what they said to do. And that was a major shift for me.
You got value from this video. If you heard what you needed to hear, be sure to like it. Comment if you've got a question or you have something to say. Subscribe to the channel. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, whatever it may be. So if you or a loved one is struggling and you need some guidance and you need some direction, reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, or you can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, whether it be detox, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services, whatever it may be. Like I said, we can either help you or make sure that you get sent in the right direction. We help people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. I'll see you on the next video.